I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everybody. Before we do the moment of silence, I just wanted to make a couple comments about a person that served the state, the county, and the city for a lot of years. Most of you know Mr. Clyde Graber passed away earlier this week, and I know most people had a contact with him, connection. I enjoy talking to him and working with him, and I sat on a lot of committees with him over the years. One of the most honorable people I've ever met. I really think he always tried to work everything out. In fact, he's a good person to follow in his footsteps. He did a great job. He served on the county commission for many years. And you know, anyone knows that sometimes the decisions the county commissioners or council members or commissioners or state folks have to make can be really tough. But he always did his homework. He always tried to make sure everybody was heard, and then he made his decision. So as we get ready to go into a moment of silence, I just want you to, I'd ask you to send prayers to his family. So with that, I'll ask for a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Roll call. Commissioner Collins?
Here.
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 All righty. Any public comment? I don't think there was.
She said no.
No, there's okay. Okay. Administrative business?
I do have one item. I do have one item I'd like to bring up, and I've asked Crystal to be here. I just kind of give you all an update on, if you remember, there was a moratorium put on building codes while we were forming an appeals committee, and I just asked her to come and give you an update because March 1st was that deadline, and I think we probably are going to ask for an extension or let the board make a decision anyway.
Morning.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you. Yes, so we set that deadline as March 1st. We have, in the last 10 days or so, begun to receive applications for the codes committee. We have about 6 applications right now. I'm expecting 1 or 2 more to come rolling in the next week or so. I would like to bring those before you either next week or the Wednesday after that so that the board can make a decision about putting that committee together. I think we have a lot of qualified folks. Like I said, 6 currently. We were seeking a board of approximately 5 to 7. So I think we've got a good mix. However, I would like to give it just a little bit more time. Since you all have begun reaching out to people, we have had people come and begin putting in their applications, so that's been great. So yes, I am requesting that we extend that moratorium to March 15th or March 22nd, I think would be the next date, in order to get that committee set together.
You think that's enough time, even? I mean, should we go 30 days or at least?
That's completely up to the board. I think, like I said, within the next week, I'll have a couple of more applications. April 1st is perfectly acceptable to me. That will give us plenty of time. I don't think we'll have any problem at all filling it at that point.
Okay. Yeah, we will make sure you have plenty of time, Crystal, on this. I don't want to rush this. It's a new thing.
Mr. Chairman, you ready for a motion?
Yes, sir, I am.
I move that we delay the implementation of building codes till April 1st, 2021.
Could I get you to just amend that? Could we do April 7th, because that would be our normal board meeting day? Does that work?
Okay, yes, absolutely. I would draw that motion, change it to April 7th, 2021.
Second.
Motion second. Any more discussion on that? Okay, Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Aye.
It passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Anything else, Mark?
That was all I had today.
Stay on the board. All right, looking at the consent agenda. anything need to be pulled or any issues on it? None, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Motion and second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Right. Commissioner Collins?
Aye.
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 5-0. Okay, now we're getting formal board action. This is...
Mr. Knoll.
Oh, yeah. It's backwards. Orville.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
The first item I have for your consideration today is the acceptance of the recommendation for the construction inspection services of Finney and Turnip Seed on the bridge replacement project at SH22. Proposals were solicited from 4 KDOT pre-qualified firms. We did only receive the one proposal back at this time, and the proposal was for a 180-day project, calendar days. It is a calendar day, not working day project. 1,585 combined hours, plus the mileage and the testing requirements, for a total cost of $98,500. This is less than and very comparable to many of the bridges that we have recently had inspection services acquired for.
Actually, it's a little cheaper, isn't it?
It's cheaper, yeah.
Yeah.
It's considerably cheaper than some of the
Yes.
bridges. And I think that from our design solicitation for this project, when the same firm was considerably cheaper, $250,000 cheaper than the other firms, I think some of the other firms who were solicited for proposals, when they asked for a list of firms who had been who sent proposals and saw that this group was on the list, they elected not to show them any pricing.
Didn't want to waste your time, huh? Okay.
Any other questions on this issue or comments? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Stevens' area.
Also, you want me to make a motion? Consider, I move that we award the SH22 replacement construction speculative services to Finney and Turnip Seed in the amount of $98,500.
Second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? I'll call the roll. Mr. Collins?
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Bill, you're still your show.
Yep. The next item for your consideration is the acceptance of the bid for the construction of SH22's bridge replacement project. We did receive 3 bids for the project. All 3 bids were less than the engineer's estimate. The low bid was the King Construction Company of Heston, Kansas. Second bid was Ebert Construction of Wamego, and the third bid was Lineweaver Construction of Lansing. The low bid of King Construction of Heston was $1,383,095. We did include a 5% contingency. We have an unknown water line situation with Rural Water District Number 10 that's has been located in 3 different locations and may or may not result in a relocation.
No, I don't have any question on this. I just have is it practice to do 5% and not 10% on contingency? Is that what is that the things you look at when you bring things forward to the county commissioners? Or it depends on the project?
We've used different amounts on different projects, depending on the number of variables we feel that the project has.
Okay.
This project primarily has the one variable out there with the water district that has been unwilling to verify or pothole the locations. And we are meeting with them again today at 1 o'clock. And so hopefully we will, but we have a design location, a field location, and a GPS as-built location, and all 3 are in considerably different areas.
Okay.
You'll find it when they start construction.
That's what I said.
And they'll be in there for a change order.
That's why we had the contingency.
Yeah.
I think just to point something out on here, I believe there's an error on the RBA, and then therefore also on the agenda and the dollar amount. At the top of there, you have a total amount request of $1,452,249.75. But at the bottom, it says amount not to exceed $642,000. I believe that was a carryover from the previous project that this RBA was used on, from SH30. So if we could just make sure whenever the motion is, it's the $1,452,249.75.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, make a motion to approve the low bid from King Construction for SH22 bridge replacement project in the amount not to exceed $1,452,249.75.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I will say one thing. I grew up down in Heston area.
That build bridges all over.
Well-respected company.
Right.
Well-respected company.
And Mark, I appreciate you bringing that to attention. Okay, I'll call the rolls. Mr. Stephen?
What's that?
You got a motion and a second, right?
Right. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
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 I saw that.
Aye, okay. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
All right. The final item for your consideration today is the approval of the extension of additional funds for the utilization of the Olsen Master Agreement for professional services. The original agreement was signed on August 16th of 2019 for the on-call county engineering services. This is a straight extension of that contract. This is not a new agreement. As you guys are well aware, their services are currently assisting Public Works on many different aspects of projects and public or planning and zoning review processes. We do ask that you extend the amount to $120 or 20. Sorry,
We can do $120.
$120, yeah, $120,000. Based upon the last 6 months, the usage has averaged considerably less than it did in the beginning of that contract. We feel that if those trends continue, this amount would be adequate. If those trends were to change based upon planning and zoning review processes or other factors, we can come back in front of the board. But that amount should, at current billing rates, last until the end of the year.
Until the end of the contract, or I'm just trying to question, are we going to at some point open up this contract yet again for solicitation of services, or continue to sole source using Olsen, or open? Am I making sense to you?
Yeah,
I'm just.
Are we going to go back through a proposal process to consider other
engineering firms or?
Do we have a policy that explains that at all, or
Well, it's
Mark, or is it just
Professional service.
It's professional services. I was just curious.
I understand.
So we do have this falls under professional services, similar to like our audits and other legal representation. Typically, with these, because of the learning curve, it's usually every 3 years where we go back out and solicit. Certainly, if the board prefers, we can do it at any time. I mean, there's no contract that we're locked in at this point. We're just kind of a pay-as-you-go type thing. This firm was solicited. We did a request for proposals. We reviewed several firms. I think we narrowed it down to 3, and then this was the one that everybody settled on. And that was August 2019. So this year would be, in August, would be 2 years that we've been using them. So probably then towards the end of 2022, we would redo this process again.
Well, I think we have a better idea of the scope of work we're expecting from a firm than we did at the beginning.
Right.
So
We
I
have-
think we need to look at it.
Yeah, we had numerous
putting it out again.
numerous large projects going on at the time,
Correct.
and some change in the director's position. So we obviously used them a lot more for the first 6 months of this contract than we have for the last 6 months.
Right. I was just curious. I mean, I just was,
So you're saying the end of next year, you'll look at opening it up?
That would be typically the process. Like I say, every 3 years with
Okay.
professional services.
I just think that's that's the only reason I brought it up, is I think it's good to
Absolutely.
do a review.
I do have a question on, we used Olsen a lot on the Call Valley. With our new implemented policies, and those expenses were billed to the county. Now we've changed some of our policies. If we did get a large project in going forward, a lot of those costs would be shifted to the developer, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move that we approve additional funds for utilization of the Olsen Master Agreement for professional services in the amount not to exceed $120,000 for 2021.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more concerns or questions?
I just wanted to bring up
Go
that
ahead.
I think we've proven over the last couple of years that they've saved us more money than we actually pay them. I don't have specifics in front of me, but if we went down the list, I think, by using a firm like this, you get the advantage of the entire team looking at every project that you got. So you've got all those years of experience of every engineer on their team and every person, specializes in
I
that
don't
field.
question. And
And just on the Eisenhower project alone, what was it?
I think there was a $500,000 change that they were able to, just by reviewing the plans, they were able to suggest a change to those plans that saved us over $500,000 just on that project. And the other thing is, a lot of the policies that you've seen come forward recently are based on conversations and information that we use their staff to help us create. So having, as Commissioner Culbertson pointed out, having an engineer on staff is great, but you get that engineer's experience and expertise. Having an engineering firm in retainer, you get everybody who works in that firm's expertise. So we have access to a traffic engineer, we have access to a pavement engineer, we have access to traffic study people. So, it's just very beneficial. Whoever the firm is, Olsen is a great firm, but there are a lot of other great firms out there. Whoever the firm is, I just think that going forward, this is a great model for Public Works and for the county to follow.
Mark, I agree. My only concern was to make sure that everybody has a chance every few years to have a chance at the table. And when it comes down to recommendations, like Jeff and you and Bill have said, I have no problem with that. I just think I want to keep that transparent about, okay, if someone else wants to come up, and we may stay with these folks, depending on what the county commissioners want to do for years.
Sure.
Let's just have the other folks know they can submit, and we'll look at your recommendations. It's no criticism to
No, not at all.
whatsoever. Just keeping things open and stuff like that. Because I look to staff on recommendations. Always have.
Good. Bill, could we have like a summary, if you have a chance, but just a summary, like we know the Eisenhower project, they probably saved us the $500,000, but if you've thought of some other places where they've saved us some money, if we could have a summary of that, and then, is that something we could share with other people?
You mean what it cost and what to save?
Yeah, what the
Two line items.
Objectives, objective, both at
The only thing I'd like to see a service provided is like if they're inspected on, well, they'll just use the last subdivision off 155th, won't mention the name. If the contractor would be able to call them and they return calls instead of having to call you and bog you down, what the cost of that would be, or if they could get like a couple calls so they could be direct to see how they could get situations resolved instead of having to go through the county contact Olsen. I know you can't take phone calls all day long from somebody, or a firm cannot, but at least one or two calls without the county being billed or something on that.
Well, I think that there's a couple of challenges there, Commissioner, and one is the billing, but that's probably not the biggest challenge. Is that Olsen works for the county,
Right.
and they will not provide
Counsel for.
advice to another organization because that's a conflict for them potentially.
Correct.
So as far as resolving questions like, and I know the project you're talking about, being able to sit down with them in the past, and we did this with the Caw Valley, for instance, we have joint meetings where everybody sits down so the staff is there, because Olsen can't give advice to a developer without having the county approve it, because they do represent us. So there are some challenges, but I think that that handling it through staff is still the appropriate way. I know it may create a day or two delay, but Olsen, I don't believe, and we could ask them, but I don't even believe they would entertain that option because of the conflict.
I think that's probably.
Well, how much
I
a
think
delay
we
did
also
this
need to-
last project from the time they made their recommendation until the time they came up with another solution? How much, was that been a month, 2 months?
But that's not related to the that's not related to the
Right.
lack of communication. That's just the lack of not moving forward on the applicant's side on not, they don't like the answer they got.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And I
but
think that
it wasn't a
we need
delay.
to give credit also to that we have begun to develop an incredibly talented staff.
Absolutely.
And I want to give some of the credit to some of the efficiencies and some of the changes that have been made to those individuals as well. And that includes Bill and Crystal and the people in the GIS and the people in our planning and zoning department. You know, I just, you know, it's not all Olsen. that
Exactly.
is- And so it's when you're saying, can we say how much money we've saved? Some of it is because we have an extremely efficient, and our administrator, sorry about that, didn't mean to leave you
You're
out.
in there, Mark.
No, I'm just saying an
Also
incredibly
ran.
talented staff of people that have emerged over the past several years, and I hope that the people in the county can appreciate that and respect that and understand that this is the commission moving forward and the efficiency of how things are going to be operating in the future.
Yeah.
And to answer a little bit of that question, so like for instance on the Baser Elementary School that had been proposed off of K32, we set up. They requested that we try to expedite the process of facilitating some of the reviews. So we set up virtual meetings with both representatives of the school, their engineering firm, Olsen, and county staff in order to come up with a time. And other individual developers could do that if they requested that through our office. We never received a request for that.
Okay.
The other thing that people need to, developers and different groups that are coming through these planning and zoning processes need to also understand is Olsen is only going to follow county building and materials. So they won't engage in a back and forth discussion about variations from the county existing
Right.
standards. If that was going to occur, it needs to occur at the county staff, county commissioner level. They are going to hold our current policies to the T, and they don't really engage in those type of conversations about variations from any type of current county policy.
Okay.
So,
I was going to echo what Commissioner Cos said. I have heard from many, many, many people about how our professionalism from this county has changed within the last number of years. And I will credit that a lot towards our planning and zoning and the public works department, and really appreciate everything you're doing. Keep it up.
You know, all transfer station, I mean, everything. I mean, we've
Yep.
got a great team of employees that work really hard and make us look good.
I agree. I think I saw that when I first came back. I was really impressed. You know, you hear the rumors and you've worked and seen some things in the past, but what I've seen, it runs very smooth. People I've talked to, would be Crystal, Bill, or whoever, county employees, very thorough, answer my questions where even I can understand it. So I've been very pleased with what I've seen so far. Anyway, is there anything else in this? Were you a second, Jeff?
Yeah, we're ready for a vote.
Yeah, we're ready for a vote? Okay.
I think we already.
Aye.
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 All right, passes. Thank you. All righty.
Quarterly report.
Ready for quarterly report?
Register deeds.
Okay.
Mary Lois.
Harry, first one, quarterly reports, Richard Deeds. Come on forward.
I think I'm going to stand and take you. Nervous energy, you know. Is my mic on, or do I need to turn it? Oh, it's on. Okay. Well, good morning,
Morning.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to update you what I have been doing in my office since January 11th. I'd like to start with some of our accomplishments so far. As Commissioner Cos said, the staff makes or breaks you. I had invited the prior staff to continue employment in my office, but they chose to leave. So I now have 3 outstanding new members. Sean Hicks is my chief deputy. He has 20 years experience. Susan Giraffes has graduated from law school, and she's my second deputy. Cindy O'Toole rounds out the team. She's my records account specialist, and she has 30 years experience. Given the challenges of not having any assistance with the transition into my new office, I am so proud of my staff and how they have risen to every single challenge that's come up to date. And I must thank 3 Register of Deeds, specifically from Shawnee County, Wyandotte County, and Jefferson County. Delia, Nancy, and especially Becky Neosi have just been an invaluable help to us. What we have done to improve efficiencies is implemented a electronic clerk stamp the third or fourth day that I was in office. The previous method was a cumbersome manual 3-step process, which now in a nanosecond we apply the clerk stamp and move on to the next document. So we've saved a lot of time between 2 departments. The clerk's staff was elated. They've been asking for the electronic stamp for years. I've also, with the appraiser's office, now implemented immediate availability to SVQ records, so real-time availability instead of a manual method. And I continue to look for more efficient methods to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. Staff salaries, we have come in over $41,000 in savings from the budget that was allotted to me, partly in due to 2 people from my office that voluntarily lowered their salary. We have tried to offer a warm and friendly environment. Our turnaround for requests for information is we try to get it in 24 hours, but more realistically, it's like 2 hours. I'm not going to promise that, depending on what comes up, but we're working on that. I've done updates to our website with clear verbiage added. A legal disclaimer was also added. Forms that are commonly used in my office are now available online. And I have plans to make a video of what the Register of Deeds office actually does for the citizens. Records retention. Previously, my records were commingled with the treasurer's office in storage at Hutchinson. I've separated that, and I now can access the documents without needing her permission, although she always gave me permission. That was just one step to be more direct in achieving access. We are required by the state to maintain microfilm backup copies of all documents, and I am working to get compliant with that statute. Some of my short-term goals were protecting the citizens of Leavenworth County. Property fraud alert notifies a property owner if there's been any nefarious intentions to record deeds on their property. It's like LifeLock, except it's free and it deals only with land properties. So we had our first save the last week of January. I actually recorded the deed. A nice older lady, very friendly, came in to record the deed. The last person on earth that you would expect to be trying to file an illegal deed. But thanks to Property Fraud Alert, we caught it immediately. We have added over 100 people since January 11th. My intention is to get the entire county aware of this program. We're sending out flyers with the Appraisers mailing going out March 1st. Brochures will be handed out along the St. Patrick's Day Parade. And then we're also sending out flyers with the tax mailings going out in the spring. In order to have a complete land record, every document needs to be available online. We have it through microfilm, but when I took office, there was almost 21,000 images that needed to be back indexed. In the last 2 weeks, my incredible staff has added over 1,000 documents of back indexing. Back indexing is allowing someone to search by the name, by the legal description, etc. So I just can't say enough what a great staff I have. I'm very happy with them. Previously, self-research was $6.95 online on our website, and research that was requested through staff was free. I've implemented a new system where we now charge $30 an hour for research with a $7 minimum to match the online fee. Most all of our documents come in and we can get responses at $7. Looking forward to my long-term goals and visions. It is a multi-phased plan in order to protect the records and increase the availability to the public. I want to thank the board again for not voting to transfer funds out of the RodTech fund last December. And now I'd like to explain to you why I had that request. We use Avid software for all of our recordings. Fiddler is designing modules that work in concert with Avid. I've been talking with Fiddler since last November about several of the modules, one of them being Bastion. It's an off-site hosted production server and a fully managed data center in Iowa. Fiddler production servers that are backed up also to a secondary site, so that's good for our security. I was notified by our IS director last week. Larry said that my on-site infrastructure server is long in the tooth, I think is what he said. And when I had discussed the Bastion option with him, he said that's actually the optimum scenario. Fiddler would migrate the data that's currently on our in-house server and host it in their cloud solution. And this produces many positives. One of them is it's a fully managed data center, and short of the mother of all bombs having a direct hit on it, it's going to survive E5 tornadoes. It's if anything should happen to the courthouse and I can get to any computer, I can be fully functional as the Register of Deeds with the system in place with Bastion. It relieves stress on our IS department. The typical maintenance and management of our local server is now falling on Fiddler. And using Bastion will reduce the traffic that is currently on in-house servers. And as I bring on more online records, the traffic is going to increase. So the cost savings solution that I've come up with is currently in the replication of Avid and Laredo production with our server, it's $6,000 a year. The needed replacement for the on-site server is $20,000. Moving to Bastion, there would be a $5,000 initial setup and data migration. And then this year and thereafter, it would be $10,400 a year contract, which is paid quarterly. So converting to Bastion now, we would actually save $10,600. The second part of my long-term vision involves Condor. This is a legacy project, which is going to outlast you and I. For generations to come, anyone who is needing land records will be able to access them online and have them immediately back to the first deed recorded. Poor image quality, which I've given you examples of, is what we now work with our microfilming. And we would replace those with clear, clean images. And through digital enhancements software, the finished product would actually be better than what the initial records show in the original books. People would be able to research from the safety of their home or their office rather than needing to come into the courthouse. And since they now work with Condor, I requested Stacy Driscoll and Melissa Peters for indexers on this project, because who better than those two know the records of Leavenworth County? To be fiscally responsible, I am structuring for conveyance records to be back indexed first. There's not a huge demand for a mortgage release from 1857 right now. So those records will be back indexed later. The intercompany connections now required using VPN setup is eliminated with the Condor project if Bastion is implemented as our offsite host server. Much safer environment for our data that way. Our IS director said he believes most local governments are viewing remote connectivity with much more skepticism than before. It opens us up to hacking much easier. So the implementation is phase one. All the documents would be scanned. U.S. Imaging would actually come into the courthouse, take our books and review them, scan them in. Unfortunately, I have discovered that Book A, our original book from our repository, is missing. So that's gone from our history. But we have that in microfilm. So we will work with microfilm and digitally enhance those documents. All of the records will be scanned from the original books.
Any idea where that went?
I do not. I am actually putting requests out to local historical societies and doing other research, hoping it will show up. In phase two, U.S. Imaging will perform various services, inspecting, cropping, importing. One of the main important things of this phase is grouping a document into one image. In the 1800s, to save paper, they were frugal, so they wrote multiple documents on one page. So cutting and splicing the images into one document will help for the clarity of researchers in the future. Then we upload all of the images once finished into the Avid system, and the last phase is back indexing by Condor. Now, I plan to help pay for Condor with lost revenues from those who profit the most by using our intellectual data. People may purchase a Laredo, which is Land Record Documents Search, Laredo, and they remotely access our data and print local in my office or print remotely. Laredo is designed with a two-tier printing charge. In-house, it's $1. Previously, all charges were free. The prior ROD implemented a much-needed increase to the subscription fees of Laredo, but kept the print fees at zero, to the tune of, in total, 2,725,765 pages free since Laredo was implemented. In terms of lost potential, lost revenue, at 25 cents a page, that would be $681,000 plus. The estimated cost for my entire project, Bastion, Condor, the entire project would be $563,021. So basically, we could have covered the entire cost and had $100,000 left had the print fees been enacted. Instead, businesses were given free research time and free resource time of the staff and access to our data for only $60 a month. So I feel it's time that the citizens of Leavenworth County stop subsidizing the business expenses of for-profit institutions.
How long a period was that from? Was that from when that
Yes, that
started?
2009 is when Laredo was implemented.
Okay, so that gives a little
So
perspective.
all copies forward. Thank you. I sent out updated contracts with the external print fees, and the extra funds that are gained from that will then turn around and pay for Condor. Condor is a pay-as-you-go process. So therefore, once the Condor project is completed, it's completely paid for. And at that time, I'll reevaluate the remote print fee. Commissioner Cos mentioned something about sole sourcing. I want to say that I did talk with other companies. Having completed the interview, I wouldn't let them touch my books. It was scary what some of the other companies said. They wanted to cut the pages out of the books. They wanted to run them through high-speed scanners. When I discussed my parameters for indexing, they asked me to point out what a grantor was and what a grantee was, and they couldn't read a legal address. So, no. I'm very pleased with every aspect that I've worked with Fiddler so far. The third part of my long-term goal is hands-free microfilm. Images would be moved and backed up each night with Fiddler through Bastion. And once there were 6,000 images, that would create a new microfilm backup roll. So backup data from 2010 is currently housed at a facility in St. Joseph. Fiddler would charge 4 cents an image to create that. The previous process was 5.5 cents a copy, so there's a little bit of a savings there going with Fiddler. My final points are what I'm continuing to work on is speaking at clubs to try and get the information out about the Property Fraud Alert program. I'd like to teach genealogy research through churches or library, the historical societies, educate people on the potential history. We had one gentleman who, through reading the old deeds on his property, discovered a shaft that ran all the way to the river, and that there was a murder that took place on his property. Really, amazing what you find in the deeds. I would like to complete, pardon me, we are converting current card indexes into an Excel spreadsheet so it's much more searchable and easier to find the plat or the survey that the researcher's looking for. We are also going back and redacting additional information off of previously recorded death certificates. With all of the increase in identity fraud, by eliminating the most frequent fields used in identifying an individual, we hope to keep Leavenworth families safer. I do want to have one final request in my presentation that copies fees that are currently deposited into the general fund be redirected into the raw TEP fund and used to restore the resources that we currently spend on paper, ink, toner, service contracts. I'd like to thank everyone for the tremendous support that I have received to date, and just offer that we are here to help. If there's anything our department can do to work more with any other department, please let me know how we can help. I really appreciate your listening, and I will stand for any questions you might have.
Go ahead, Mike.
We had a discussion when our previous commissioner was here about elected or appointed for a position like the treasurer, register of deeds. I'm sure I know what your position is on that, but could you kind of explain to folks why it's important, in your opinion, that it be elected, register of deeds?
Well, I'm basically the poster child of why it should remain an elected position. No offense to the commission here, but I think that's too much power. to be given to the commissioner or respectfully to our county administrator. You know the drama that has preceded when elected officials have worked in concert with the county commissioner for their own benefit.
I lived it.
So my argument of the board can research and review the experience of the candidate, that doesn't take into account the passion of the human spirit, which is basically what drove me to campaign for 12 hours a day. The best Rod in the state of Kansas worked in fast food before she came into office, and she had 6 hours of training from her predecessor. That's 6 hours more than I received. And that did not stop me from driving to any county Rod that would take the time to train me, to be listening to any training video if I was driving anywhere in my car. We have the capability to train and educate ourselves in the knowledge that we lack. I challenge you to find any appointed official that would have voluntarily given up $4,800 of their salary, or that would come in for a weekend and build a standing desk instead of spend $400 of the people's taxpayer money when the staff needs a standing desk, or work 12-hour days and weekends until I'm proficient at my job. An appointed official takes away the power from the people. Elected officials are directly responsible to the people who elect us. And I believe it should stay that way. I understand that there's people in the industry who are less than enamored with me right now. I'm taking away their golden goose of almost 3 million free print copies. But they're the ones who are going to benefit the most when this project is completed. If the citizens of the county agree with me that businesses should be the ones to pay for the benefits that they receive from our intellectual data, then I'll be reelected. But if they disagree, then I won't be reelected. But I'm going to continue to do the best for the taxpayers until the meantime, however it goes. I guess you can tell I'm passionate on that issue.
I think so. Any other?
Terry Lois, any of these fees you've implemented, the user fees, will that help make up for some of the lost revenue we've received for the mortgage filing fee being reduced?
Well, that was a $1 million hit. We lost over $1 million from mortgage registration fees that now go to the very institutions that I'm asking to pay a quarter for the prints that they receive. That's a lot of prints. I also beefed up my contract to be more specific on not copying, not transferring, not reselling our intellectual data, which I think was happening based on my audit of the numbers. Just very bizarre that local organizations would have 500, 1,000 prints in a month, and then you have one organization that has 150,000 in a month. They operate for 2 months and then they discontinue. Then they want to reapply 6 months later and they print 200,000 copies.
Is this like title companies that are doing this, or
no, external
research organizations?
Yes, I'd like to not name them, but by charging the per print, I also hope to put the brakes on what I feel should not happen.
Okay.
I think we will gain a fair amount, but I don't think we'll hit the $1 million mark.
Any other commissioner have
Yeah, I had a question, Chair. Terry Lewis, it said under record retention, we're required by statute to maintain backup microfilm copies of all our documents. And I'm working on getting compliant with that statute. So we don't have microfilm backups for all of our...
I'm actually in the middle of research. I'm going back through 5 years of prior invoices, trying to find any other company that the ROD's office may have been in contact with that could have done the microfilm backups. What I have found so far is microfilm back up to 2010 and nothing since then. We converted over to the Avid in 2009, the office did. So I just thought at 2010 that the hands-free microfilm was in place, and so the backups were being done. Talking with the field manager of Fiddler, that's not the case. So I will say I'm not done searching. At this point, I haven't found any proof of microfilm backup past 2010. I will also say that everything I have not been able to find in the office, eventually I found. So it may be out there. I just don't know the repository of it right now.
Okay.
I will update you
Okay.
once I find that out. In the meantime, I do know, I've confirmed with Fiddler that hands-free microfilm is not in place with Leavenworth County right now.
I have a question. This might be for the county councilor, maybe you can answer. But these elected officials, when it comes to fees on documents, and is that completely in the discretion of the elected officials, or does the Board of County Commissioners have any control or any say in that at all?
Commissioner Stephen, members of the commission, the county does have an open records policy that has been adopted. It recognizes that there are exceptional cases when certain documents are being requested and the actual cost for the reproduction of those documents can be charged. I believe the intent was to allow the departments to include elected officials to comply with the Kansas Open Records Act, which requires that the fees be reasonable and connected to the actual cost of the reproduction research for those records. So I would suggest that if the Register of Deeds office deviates from the county policy, that it's incumbent upon, of course, the Register of Deeds to be able to justify that. I have reviewed what the current Register of Deeds has adopted, and I do not find it to be unreasonable.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stephen, if you look on the page that's titled Laredo, I've highlighted on there, all subscription plans and pricing are determined by the individual county. And since I'm in charge of Laredo, that would be my discretion to charge. The $7, the research fee matches the $6.95. I think my 30-year plus experienced staff is worth a nickel more. So the $7 matches what's already being charged if you did your own research. And also, on the 25 cents a print, that I did research other counties in Kansas for that 25-cent mark. The courthouse itself, I've asked several long-term employees. I think 25-cent copies have been the standard for decades, as I understand it.
Yes, Mike. Jeff, do you have anything else? Vicki, do you have anything else? Okay. We want to thank you for taking the time to compare. I appreciate this, and I'll have a chance to look it over. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. We're hearing good things.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
County Treasurer Janice, your time. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to sit.
Sure.
Well, for the weekly packet, I submitted a report that kind of outlines the functions of our office, whether they're county functions or state functions. Primarily, the county functions are accounts receivable, all forms of accounts receivable, and we basically act as the banker of the county, and we collect all forms of tax. As far as the state functions, we process all forms of motor vehicles, whether it's motor vehicle, personal property, like trailers, commercial vehicle, heavy trucks. As you can see, last year we processed over 99,214 title transactions and over 1,000 commercial vehicle transactions. As far as regular tax collections for the county, we processed 57,888 tax payments last year. I wasn't really sure what information that you really wanted on my office. I've submitted some budgetary information for both the motor vehicle fund and the general treasurer. We started, let me see, I put in a comparison is what I did is the 2020 revenue in January was $37,482, and the 2021 revenue is $43,771 for the month of January. So you have a little bit of a comparison in the revenue and the expenses for this year versus last year. And as you can see, my revenue is up and my expenses are down. And I'm hoping that will continue. That trend will continue. On the general treasurer budget, it's where it needs to be, which is basically below 8% per month. On my staffing levels, right now I have 17 full-time staff, 1 intermittent on-call, and 1 part-time. Generally, I average about 20 employees, and I'm a little low right now. But I'm going to try to maintain this level if I can. But right now it's kind of slow. January and February are slow months. So anyway, I've also submitted to you investment reports that I have invested right now. The first one is the Municipal investment pool, which is where we make all of our bond payments from. Based on the bond payments that we have received, and last year we received in sales tax we received $4,262,055.36. That is sales tax that comes from the state of Kansas, and based on payments I'm going to have to make next year, I will have to withhold $163,000 of that to make our March payment for 2022. The next item on my report are CD investments. As you can see, interest rates are very low, a fraction of a percent, but I do have them categorized into what is operational funds, what's a longer-term investment. I don't want to get into a real long-term investment because I'm hoping interest rates will go up. So I'm not really sure what information that you would like to hear from my office, so these are just things that I wanted to provide to you that I thought you would want to have knowledge of. You can see in the what we used to call road impact fees and road improvement fees, we have combined into one account, and you can see the total there for all townships, and that's $1,725,269.48. So the final page is basically a listing of all of the county's assets, CDs, the municipal investment pool, our checking accounts, the various accounts that we have, and it's $60,655,497. I've also attached my January distribution, which is generally the biggest distribution because a lot of people will pay for the whole year in advance. And based on this, I've collected about 42% of the tax roll. So on the attachment, I have broken it down. I wasn't sure how you would want to see it. I've broken it down into the different types of distributions, whether it's ad valorem, heavy trucks, watercraft, redemptions, commercial, neighborhood revitalization, motor vehicle, escaped, recreational vehicle, prior year, and the TIF districts. And so that's a breakdown of that. And then attached to that is the actual check that was cut in January to the taxing entities. As you will see in the school districts, the general fund amount collected for the school district all goes to the state, and then they distribute it to the schools. It didn't used to be that way. The state has changed it, but we send the general fund for the school districts to the state, and then they distribute it. So, is there anything that I could have included in here, or things that you would like to see?
All of our local ad valorem property tax relief money back to us.
Yeah.
And the city-county revenue sharing fund. We'd like to see that back.
Yeah.
You got any control in that?
No.
I'm
No,
trying
but
to convince her to let me pay her bail and her legal fees to just withhold it.
Yeah.
She wasn't amiable to that idea.
yeah, Jeff tried the same thing.
I think we both tried that. It didn't work.
And I will visit.
But you won't contribute to the legal defense.
Yeah,
Defense fund.
yeah, I can remember when they took that out of Orem, that away. It's
Whatever.
You say.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around how that worked, but
yeah, that's probably been 20 years ago.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
2001.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I guess it is 20 years.
yeah,
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
yeah.
It just whittled away.
Thanks for coming and thanks for giving us this information. Appreciate everything that you do.
Well, thank you.
I did have one question. We had, of course, about 6 or 8 months ago, we had the sheriff come and discuss the audit proposal. And then you were going to meet with the sheriff. And then we came and we had a letter from you, I believe, that you said that there was a proposal
Yes.
being bandied about.
Yes.
Can you give us where that all stands?
Well, I have signed an engagement letter with another company. I was not able to follow up with the sheriff. He had submitted his recommendations prior to our meeting, and I never heard anything after that. So in an effort to get this done, I have made my own contract with an accounting firm out of Wichita, and that will happen when my deputy gets back from maternity leave on March 22nd.
Okay, so you were not able to meet with the sheriff? Okay.
Nope.
Becky? Yeah.
Nope, I'm good.
I guess anything you want to, any comments? I appreciate the information here. A lot of the stuff is still coming to me kind of new, so I appreciate the update.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and my door is always open if there's information that you would like to have and that I haven't provided. Just please let me know. I'll include it in my next report. But anyway.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You got right to the point. I appreciate it. Okay, information systems.
Mr. Marlboro.
Okay, I don't think I've met you.
You haven't met Larry?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You live.
Yes. I've heard of Commissioner Smith, Mike Smith, for years, but this, I believe, is the first time I've met you. So
Yeah, same here. I'm getting ready to stop. I'm trying to stop by all the offices. Nice to meet you.
you'd have
Don't
to
say
drive a little bit.
Don't say how you heard about me. Just go on with your presentation.
Yeah, it's all been favorable. I'm destroying your
Call me
chair.
household
at this
name.
point. I had sent you an introduction to the Information Systems Department. I hope you had a chance to look that over. I'm not interested in reading it to you, but I'll just skim down it if that's acceptable. We are your IS department. We've been around for a little over 20 years. We handle the hardware, the data, the software, communications contracts, network, SharePoint design, administration of servers, backups, processes, storage, and as well as the help desk operation, which supports all the county offices. And that is in about 45 seconds an overview of what we actually do. We touch every department in some fashion or another. Some rely on us much more than others. But virtually everybody needs technology these days. Nobody's immune. Transfer station, you name it, everybody has to have us. They're all on the network. They're all using computers. They all have a phone. Everybody has a copier. And we take care of all that for them. So we keep it so that the people can do their work, get their jobs done.
And Mr. Marble made me very, very happy by facilitating getting our new website.
That was just completed in the fourth quarter of last year. largely instigated by Commissioner Koss, I believe is a fair statement. When she first took office, I believe that was one of the first things she said to me.
I don't know about largely. I'd say she owns it.
Yeah. She proclaimed our website was horrible, and she wanted something done about it. I asked for money, and money was given. So, boom.
But thank you.
Fast forward a year or so, and that was completed in December of 2020. The site went live.
Much appreciated.
So it's been
Thank
going
you.
for, what now, 2 months, I guess?
Yes.
A little over 2 months. It's getting quite a bit of traffic, naturally with the pandemic issue.
And people are getting used to it now,
I certainly hope so.
there's always change, change brings.
Mr. Marlborough's defense, he did ask for money prior years and couldn't get it.
That's true. I only asked, I think, twice before, though, because I'm not really gullible enough to just keep coming back every year. It seems like that's not really a good idea. So wait 3 or 4 years. Maybe there's some personnel changes.
I'm one of those.
I wish there were some other departments that took that.
Well,
They're coming back year after year wanting more.
I don't want you to feel like I'm nagging you for anything, so I'll ask and then wait 4 or 5 years and then maybe ask again.
Okay.
As far as the fourth quarter report, we replaced the file server fourth quarter of last year, upgraded our antivirus software, we replaced some switches in the courthouse, we just completed that. The county website, as Commissioner Koss pointed out, it is a large deviation from what we had ever done before. A lot of the departments are updating their own content now, which is a significant change. I haven't heard any negative feedback from the departments that are doing that. It seems like it was a welcomed addition, that they actually like editing their own content. They didn't like learning how to do it, I don't believe, but they do like being able to do it. So I believe it's been, as far as what I've been hearing, it's been a big success. I haven't heard anything really negative about it. If you have, please share, because I'm not aware of any problems. We also conducted an access control list review. I added a network-attached storage device and assisted the clerk's office with the August and the November primary and general elections, fourth quarter. So there I am doing my speed report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of what the department does, what we're going to do, or anything that you might want to know.
I concur with what with the new site. I think that's really a night and day on something like that. We have any questions?
Happy with our website.
Oh, the website?
Yeah.
I understand the city of Lansing's getting a new website right about now.
We did the same thing. In fact, I'm not so sure they look similar to me, so I didn't know if you folks had talked or not, but they're both passed.
I had touched base with Ken Miller during the whole process. I think he went with a different company, but
it's similar though.
It is very similar. We conferred several times over.
I can say it's user friendly. Then you've done all right, then. Okay, because I get challenged with the computer sometimes. Mike, did you have anything?
Yeah, just I was going to have you kind of walk everybody through what we did with the interview with the outsourcing proposals and kind of review that.
I don't think we've made any progress on that, Commissioner, since our last meeting.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
Then we don't have anything to say.
Any other question, Mike?
Just thank you
That's
for
it.
keeping us up
No,
and
sir.
running.
No problem.
Yeah.
Technology department.
Vicki, you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope, just thanking him.
Well, we appreciate you coming. It's nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you,
I'll
too.
get a chance to talk to you a little more while I get settled in. So thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Let's see if I can fix this chair on my way out.
Okay. Appraiser's office.
We need new chairs.
We need new chairs. That'll be the next complaint.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Bob.
I'm Bob Weber, the county appraiser. County appraiser's office is tasked with valuing, we're required by law to value all real property, discover list, and value all real estate in the county as of January 1st each year, and we're required to notify taxpayers of that value on or before March 1st. So with that, we are sending out 31,684 change of value notices on Monday, March 1st. If the property owner is wishing to appeal that value, they have 30 days to, with the mail, from the mail date on that, to contact our office and appeal that valuation. That is by law. We will, after we send the change of value notices, we'll have the hearings, and then the county appraiser is required to certify those appraised values and assessed values to the county clerk by June 1st. I have a breakout of the parcel counts by class there. You'll notice if you look at farm, residential with ag, and residential, they're both essentially the same, both residential classifications, so that makes about 24,857 of those properties are residential. About 74% of our valuation is residential. About 12.5% is commercial. 8% is public utilities, which is not appraised by the local county appraiser's office. Those are appraised by the director of property valuation, and those values are certified directly to the county clerk. And then the rest is ag land, a little over 1%. Personal property makes a little over 1%. The rest are fractions of a percent of the valuation. Along with that, the county appraiser is also required to value all taxable personal property as of January 1st that is owned by on January 1st, and we sent out approximately 5,500 personal property renditions. The taxpayers, by state law, is required to report taxable personal property to the county appraiser by March 15th. The county appraiser is required to assess a late filing penalty of 5% per month up to a maximum of 25% for late filing fees. That becomes 50% upon failure to file, which is 1 year after. We are receiving personal property renditions back, and we're processing them and sending notices. Those notices are due by May 1st, and the personal property valuations can be appealed to the county appraisers by May 15th. In addition to appeals at this point in time of the year, county taxpayers can appeal their values when they pay their property taxes. They can pay them under protest, and they can protest them at that time. They can do one or the other. They can't do both times for any given tax year. Agricultural properties are valued by the Kansas Department of Revenue Property Valuation Director by state law. We classify those properties as to whether they're crop, grass, whether they're in ag or not in ag, but the values we apply the values given to us by the Director of Property Valuation Division. Values for crop ground have gone up 2% from 2020 to 2021, and grass values went up about an average of 7.5%. The ag use value is not market value. It's based on landlord share of net income. It's a formula written in state law. They use an 8-year average, and really it's an 8-year average, rolling average, 8-year average of an 8-year average. And I've included a sheet of paper. It was one of the last ones in my packet there. That kind of demonstrates the years. There's 2-year lag because the new year that came on is 2019. That only makes up about 1.5625% of that data, and it shows all the years used in that 8-year average. You can kind of see on that chart I put there. Down below I put a landlord share. What would happen if you doubled landlord share of net income from $100 to $200, and it would take 15 years for that to, and then stayed the same after that. it would take 15 years. So that kind of tells you about how far back the data is. The most important year here is 2012 in our value, in those values.
How do you know the landlord's share of the net, or how do you know the net income of the landlord?
Well, K-State does all the research.
Okay, so it's just on the USDA average with Northeast Kansas rent rates are okay.
They divide the state up into crop and forest districts.
They don't figure in agriculture subsidies or anything.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
There is some legislation proposed to shorten this time frame, to use less years, not use this rolling average. What would happen if that happens is ag values will move up and down more rapidly through the year. Now, for us, for our valuation, it only makes up about 2.5% of our total valuation. There's some smaller counties where it makes up a much larger portion of their total valuation. So they would get valuation fluctuating much more from year to year. And of course, to the taxpayers, they would get a much more fluctuation in their property valuation, thus their property taxes from year to year, if that legislation passes.
Yeah.
I've included countywide average sale prices from homes went up 10% from 2019 to 2020. The number of single-family residential sales increased to 1,374. That's the most we've ever had of single-family sales. We had more. It wasn't the most total sales, but it was the most single-family sales. And in the chart here, I included this is single-family sales, and it shows. But we were down a little bit on the number of new homes constructed, 244 from 281 last year. If you look at the previous high in sales, it was 2005, 1,342, and we had 572 new homes built that year. So we've never, since the recession, we've never made up for the number of homes we had built 2005, the early 2000s. We've always been a little bit lower. And then I included 1990 and 1995 just for some historical perspective before. Because from 2000 to 2005, things were increasing dramatically. And then it broke out all the cities and county, the cities, and then rural sales outside the county, how many there were. Now, Lansing, you'll notice there's only 4 homes built. Those are single-family homes. There was I didn't include the duplexes. There was a few duplexes, not many. There's just not much for homes being built in Lansing. No real active subdivisions. Baser has the most homes other than the rural. If you look at our rural number of homes I have built, we will differ a little bit in what planning and zoning reported to you. Some of that's timing. We will count homes. If it was issued a permit of November, December, wasn't far enough to measure and list, it won't get listed till the next year and count that next year's data. And a little bit of sometimes on a second residence on a property, they'll permit it as a accessory residential. We're counting those in our total. So there'll be a little bit of difference if you look at what they have. It's not a big difference, but there'll be a little bit of difference in the rural. With that, I included trend analysis. So some results, we had some trend analysis. If you look at paired sales, properties that sold twice in a given period. Now I used 3 years of data to have a good group of data. There was 140 properties that have sold twice that weren't remodeled, that type of thing in between. We're trying to get properties that haven't had changes in between the first sale and the second sale. Those give an indication, and of a trend of a 6.6% per year trend. Everything we did was around a 6% trend indicated in sales prices. That was consistent with what we were hearing from basically all counties in northeast Kansas. I also included ratio study. Basically, this is what the sale prices compared to our 2020. We established value as of January 1st, 2020, then compared to what they sold for throughout the year. And you can see those percentages, they're all running below 95%. Rural was the lowest at 90%. And then Baser was the highest at 94.6%. We are required, the state of Kansas does an official sales ratio study. We're under the direction of the Director of Property Valuation Division of the Department of Revenue. And we are graded basically on just this, on what properties are selling for versus our values. And by law, we have to fall between 90, the median ratio has to fall between 90 and 110%. So if we fall below that 90, then we start having to submit plans on what we're going to do to correct that. So then I got a chart here on what appraised values did. The total county valuation went up 8.37%. Of that, 2.11% was construction, new construction or remodeling. 6.26% of that was revaluation. Now, revaluation includes, what properties went up from one year to the next. It includes any change in use. So if it was agricultural land last year and a subdivision was platted and now you have lots selling for $50,000, $100,000, whatever they're selling for, it includes that increase also in the revaluation. So when you see something like Baser's a little bit higher, some of that they've had some new phases go in of subdivisions where they put in streets and stuff too. So that is included in there. Leavenworth went up 6.71%, 5.32% of that was revaluation. Baser went up 10.91%, 7.74% of that is revaluation. Lansing went up 6.22%. Most all that was revaluation. Only 0.91% new construction. Tonganoxie went up 9.9% of that. 4.88% of that was new construction, so that was a high amount of new construction there. And Easton didn't change too much. Linwood went up again significantly, and it has a small valuation, so a change in use in something can cause a large percentage difference in its total valuation. And then what the rural went up 9.54%, 7.2% is revaluation. What we see is rural homes just continue to sell and sell higher and higher values. There's a demand for rural homes. People want to live outside the city in this county, and there's not a lot to choose from at any given time, and so it does really inflate those prices on those rural homes. And they seem to take a higher percentage of increase from year to year.
Can we eliminate the perception or the claims that the Board of County Commissioners has anything whatsoever to do with the valuations and how our budgets are put together and there are certain individuals who have very publicly claimed, including some other elected officials, that somehow the Board of County Commissioners works with the appraiser's office to work our budgets. And I'm getting tired, I'm getting very tired of that because it is not true. It is not factual. And the state of Kansas has done a fine job of making certain that our taxes, our mills are held flat. I'm tired of that being used as some hammer against the county commission and local governments. It has nothing to do with our local government. And I want to make that perfectly clear yet again.
Well, we don't encourage people to overpay for homes.
Right.
And people are overpaying for homes.
And that's not our fault. That is not
No.
the
I guess we have a
responsibility.
shortage of houses. We've got a lot of people that want to move out in the rural areas where you notice the most. But then there's people out there that don't want them there.
And when your property tax goes up, that is not because we're deciding that we want to penalize you somehow.
Do you think that's why they passed that local ad valorem property tax relief fund in 1965 to give the money back to the counties to help lower property tax?
Well, I'm just not sure, Commissioner Smith.
No, I'm not either. I'm trying to figure it out.
I've been trying to figure it out for a while myself. I'm just being tired of the local government taking the brunt.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get our phone calls
Yep.
after March 1st.
Right.
Yeah.
The biggest user of tax dollars is school districts, property tax dollars.
Absolutely.
Right.
The reason we do this, the reason we have these laws, the reason we have to stay at market value and be even from county to county to county is because we finance our schools on a statewide basis. The state legislature sets a 20 mil levy that goes to the school general fund. And therefore, we have to follow all state laws, and this is why we're regulated and why by the Kansas Department of Revenue is so that values are even across the state. And it is included in our Kansas Constitution that values will be equal in Kansas.
And
they use market value as that measure, and they're using sale prices as that measure.
Exactly.
And your accuracy rate is?
Is what percent? You do a phenomenal job.
We're about, if you run a ratio, we're right around 7-8% of the median ratios is 7-8% of the selling
So
price.
it's not a problem at our level.
No, and I'm just
or the
tired
appraiser's
of
appraiser's office level.
Yeah, I'm just kind of getting very tired of it being directed at us
Right.
and not where it should be.
I have a video on our website, and I will
It's a
be
good
tweeting
video.
it out. That video also.
It's an excellent video.
But that was done first in Riley County. But the problem is you have people selling the other point of view. There are people that protest taxes for a living, selling the opposite point of view to your state legislatures.
Right.
And if we say it as county appraisers, it tends to get ignored by the group that doesn't want to, doesn't want to listen.
And everything where you're talking about some of them organizations, all it's going to do is shift it back to the homeowners. If we want to get off in the woods on the dark store theory, stuff like that, stuff that's being discussed.
Well, I'm just getting tired of it being laid at our doorstep when we're doing our very best.
I would really like to see where you wrote two checks, wrote your share to the county share, and then you wrote your share made your check out to the school district for your share of taxes. And you would see exactly where it's going.
Well, when you get your notice every year, and you get your payment, and you get your taxes, a lot of times I've had calls. My other job is, why are my taxes so high? And then I ask them, do you see the breakdown? Have you been and looked at the breakdown? We used to pass out these little cards that showed, when I spoke to people, this is what the city, this is what the county, this is what the school, this is what the state. And people a lot of times didn't understand that. It's like they accept the city or the county has got this big thing and we're receiving all those funds, and that is absolutely, in fact, if you look at it, the city and the county usually are one of the lowest ones to receive any of this. And so I think the comment you made, Vicki, is very accurate and very time we spoke that out. But that's exactly. Just because it says Leavenworth County on it doesn't mean that we oversee that.
Right.
And you know, we all in this room pay these things. I've had mine go up, and it's just part of the system. But it doesn't. They don't work with the county commissioners or the city council or commissioners to make sure that they get what they need. That's just not the way it works.
And it's everything that gets cut at the state level gets shifted back to the county.
The county, exactly.
To make up the difference, and that means it's getting shifted back on the homeowner.
That's right.
Exactly.
And just as simple as what we're talking about when Terry Lois was up there about the mortgage filing fee.
Right.
You know, it would be easier for people, though, to handle it, I think. When you look back at 2015, you had the 3.2% valuation, and then you move ahead in time, you get, you know, in 2018 to 2019, it was 8.3%. Then it did drop a little less. Mm-hmm. Last year was 5.5, but now we're back up to this very, very fast rate of increase at 8.37, and we will get a lot of phone calls because your taxes are going to go up because based on the valuation of your home.
Right.
But if you look at it, in just a short time, people's valuations have gone up 20%, and that's a dramatic increase.
Well, I can tell you sadder stories than that.
But the thing to point out is that has nothing to do with the appraiser.
Right.
No,
that's what I'm saying.
It's the fact that homes are selling that much more. And in fact, the kind of page 3 of this handout is kind of a grade card that the state reviews, and you can see that there's no instance where we're even close to the 100%. I mean, percentage-wise, the rural area we're at 90%. We're close to falling underneath where we have to be statutorily.
Right.
We have to be at 90. So. I think the appraiser's office has done a good job of trying to ease into these as much as possible and not be. I mean, because technically, that 110%, I would hope we never be in any of those categories that are over 100%. But we're not close to the 100 yet.
Yeah, and quit accusing there of being some kind of a deal between the appraiser's office and the county commission's office. That is infuriating.
Well, if there was a deal, I'm not part of it. Like mine goes up about 16%.
Because that's completely out of line.
It is completely out of line, but it has been stated, and I am tired of it being stated, and I am tired of it being stated as fact when it is not a fact. As a matter of fact, it is completely the opposite of a fact. It is a lie.
Well, and the reason that the state of Kansas went through the reappraisal process in 1990 was because a lot of the counties fell behind keeping all their values up to current market value.
Right.
The reason we had to go through a statewide process. In Leavenworth County, a lot of homes were valued at what they were in the 60s.
We've reduced the mill levy from the county level 2 of the last 3 years, and the other year we left it level.
Yep.
So I think people need to look at the other entities, the other local governments, and you need to demand accountability.
3 of the last 4.
Well, just since I've been here.
But even when there's accountability, there's still the bills to pay. I mean,
right.
We still have to. We have roads that have to be maintained and improved. We still have a justice center with a jail. We still have
bridges
that fail when they're not supposed to, and we still have all of those things
Have to
that
pay
have
for
to be
bridge
taken care of.
inspections for the bridges that
We
fail.
have a lot of a health department, and we've been through an incredible pandemic with our staff at the health department, keeping them paid and working, and all of those things. And everybody wants to forget about. It's not just this little bill that has to be paid. There's a tremendous amount of things that have to happen in order for this county to function.
That's right.
And we do not sit here and figure out ways to rob the taxpayers of their hard-earned money. I have to pay taxes just like everybody else does, and everyone sitting here, I believe.
And I think And I think Bob does a
Unless
good
you see my
job.
And
name
Bob
in the
does an
paper, I'm paying
excellent
them.
job.
Yeah. And I think Bob does a good job keeping the values
He does.
at the very minimum of the percentage the state's allowing us.
Right, we're
to
right
get
there
over.
where we're going to have to do
Because
something.
we don't want to
And
get
so
into another reappraisal situation.
I just find it insulting
I
from
just,
at both ends, and I'm tired of it.
so basically, we have a housing shortage. If the only way to bring these prices down is more houses. So,
It's true. Supply and demand.
and Commissioner Culberson's area is failing us. He's a little low on it.
Yeah.
Jesus, I don't know if I can say it like that.
Barely making it.
He's working on it.
I'm working on
Okay,
it.
Commissioner
is
Culberson.
there anything else for him?
I had one question, which isn't related to all of
I'm done ranting.
this stuff, but folks have been calling me about agricultural usages and the regulations of that. For instance, if they have cattle, that'll be classified ag, but if they have a horse, it's not. Or if they have brome, it's classified as ag usage, but then there'll be something. Can you kind of tell me, like, some of these categories, like what's the difference in the horse and cattle? Is that a state statute? And then the other question is, what percentage of your land could be exempted, like if you have honeybees?
Good. As far as horses are concerned, it's an interpretation of the statute. Is the land has to be used for agricultural use. Somebody has one horse, it's kind of considered as a pet. Now, if they're breeding and raising horses and selling horses, if they're producing an agricultural product on that property, that's what we try to look at. Are they producing an agricultural product on that property that's somehow being sold to be classified as ag use? So honeybees is one that has come up recently. We did fight a little bit on that, but we lost. So some people are getting ag use for some honeybees.
And does that exempt their entire property, or does that exempt just a portion of it?
A portion of it, probably, but we haven't had too many. It's kind of, we kind of got to look at a case-by-case basis.
Is that regulated by state statute, or is that?
A state statute, but the statute's pretty broad.
So you
It's
have
very,
discretion
very broad.
on that.
And so it comes down to the Board of Tax Appeals and the courts and how they interpret it. And then we try to follow those interpretations as best you can. Of course, you're always going to get that person that tries to do the least or the minimum or wants agricultural use without really doing anything. And so we teach those all on a case-by-case basis. But generally, if you're producing an agricultural product, you qualify for agricultural use.
Okay, but not one horse.
But not one horse, we generally don't know, or a couple of horses. But if they're breeding and raising horses and selling them, then well, but I don't know. We might have one or two of those.
But if you have a cow, then
You're taking hay off the property. You have a cow. Have cattle. Well, generally cattle are used. I mean, there's really only used, but I don't know that we have even too many that have one cow. But
well, when your property tax valuations go up by 25% in 3 years, maybe you're going to get a cow.
If Bessie can
Get a
produce
horse.
milk or some
But a horse wouldn't do it.
Now, if you got to produce an agriculture product, if you clean the stalls and spread that out, that's fertilizer. That's creating an agriculture
And it's not going to
product.
be the entire agricultural thing. It's going to be just a portion.
Right.
You only get a portion per.
Right.
if there's a
Animal
house there, that portion that the house is on has to be
Right. But if you had 20 acres, a portion around the house would be residential.
We have to look at, is there any other use on the property?
And then the number of cattle that have
Get somebody to
in
blow
that
your head.
space within that.
Right. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the folks that. Well, and then the honey. I've had just people are looking for ways to reduce their taxes.
They are. I know.
And
We would like to see honeybees, not just, we would like to see them have some sort of
Selling product.
selling that. There are outfits that will come, that are in that business that raise people's properties or have come out and put hives on people's properties. And that product is going for an agricultural use.
Right.
That's what we'd like to see. Because you get the difference between, well, I've got a big vegetable garden here. Well, we don't really think that constitutes agricultural use if it's just personal use or you're giving it to your neighbors or whatever. But there are people that bring products to the farmer's market. There's people that but they have more than just a vegetable garden. They have quite a bit there.
I think what you're seeing is, by looking at this report, you have, as Bob said, you have a lot of people who want to go buy these 4 or 5 acre tracts of ground with a house on them, but they don't want to pay taxes on the 4 or 5 acres of ground. And that's the challenge. I mean, if you want to buy a house in the county and you're going to have 5 acres, it's worth $450,000 according to this report. That's what you're going to pay taxes on. And then it's kind of disingenuous to go out and try to figure out a way that now, oh, wait, this is ag ground, even though you've only got 3 acres of ground. So
that's why it's so
that's why it's such a challenge for
It's kind of disingenuous for the state of Kansas to allow a system where your taxes are quadrupled in just a short period of time.
That's why we need 2.5 acre tracts instead of 5 acre tracts.
Okay, anything else, Michael? Anybody else? We appreciate you coming out. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill, your turn. Last one in the barrel.
Well, it appears that I am the last quarterly report here for today. So we will start with the discussion of the Public Works Department, discussing some of the maintenance that was completed this year with Road and Bridge. I would like to thank those guys that did a tremendous job this summer through the COVID and all through the summer season, completing 108.3 miles of chip and seal maintenance on our asphalt roadways. That was a tremendous effort that they put forward, and they were very diligent to get that done in conjunction with some quarantines and some issues that arose from COVID. We have attached a couple maps so you can see the areas that were done this year to the report, and then also secondary to that, I've attached a few maps so you can see kind of the projected maintenance over the course of the next 3 years if we were trying to get our roads on a 3-year maintenance cycle of chip and sealing. And so I don't know if we want to stop at each interval and each map. Probably not here today, but if you do have any questions, we can ask those. Interrupt me at any time. But that gives, I think it's important to provide you guys an idea. You guys receive phone calls from the public of when was maintenance going to be completed in this area, and obviously those are subject to some changes depending on various roadway conditions, but that provides as accurate as we can at this time a timestamp of what is projected. The department also replaced 186 culverts countywide that were crossroad culverts. There was a lot of culverts that had to be replaced as part of the dust abatement projects. Prior to the hard surfacing of those roads, we tried to get out and replace all of the crossroad culverts to prevent the road from having to have to be cut in the near future to replace any crossroad culverts. Ice and snow removal. Obviously, last week we were in a deep freeze. The guys have done a great job addressing snow events. With the extreme low temperatures, we did have a little bit of gelling on some of the equipment, but overall it's been a successful season, and the salt supply, albeit hard to get at times, has not ran out and has continued throughout this year. Personnel is always an issue within Road and Bridge. As far as there is a bit of a turnover, and then we have some seasonal employees for flaggers and mowers and intermittent on-call. We have hired and processed 25 new hires in the last 6 months to fill both those seasonal and full-time positions. I've attached an org chart. We do have a very good organizational chart that we try to follow for leadership of the department. And if you have any questions about that, we can address
I
those.
used to know all these guys, but I don't anymore.
Not when you turn over 25. So 25 guys. That's even with the seasonal temps. That's about a third of the staff over the past 6 years.
Something.
When did you retire?
November 1st of 2016.
Luckily, I think a lot of the supervisors and leadership positions have been very consistent, and a lot of those guys are still around, which is great for the training and bringing on of new employees. So I think they've done a great job of getting everybody up to speed and getting guys CDLs and doing the work that needed to be done. So I really commend them for those efforts. We can move on to fleet operations unless you have any additional questions you want to ask at this time about Road and Bridge. So Frank George was brought on as the fleet operations coordinator over the past 6 months. He is responsible for the management of the enterprise fleet vehicle operations, and he writes specifications for all of our bids of heavy machinery and equipment. Zach Evans was promoted to the mechanic supervisor at the Road and Bridge shop, and he did replace the superintendent of fleet operations. We have attached the current county fleet replacement enterprise schedule. It does show which vehicles we have received, which vehicles are on order, and which vehicles have future dates of replacement. If there are any questions about that, we can address those at this time before we move on. If not, I'll move on to noxious weed. Noxious weed sales were a bit cumbersome over the past year with them being over the phone and delivering the chemicals up here to the courthouse. We have no intention of continuing that practice through 2021. They are located at the county shop location. We have been notified. We did bid out the 2021 chemical sales purchases for the chemicals this past week. Murfield Farms, using the 5% local preference within the purchasing policy, was the low bidder for those chemical purchases. But we were notified that a lot of these chemicals are produced in the state of Texas, and a lot of those facilities had freezing issues over the past several weeks. And so we are going to go ahead and try to order as much as we can have on hand for the 2021 spray season within our storage capacity. But they were alluding to later in the year having issues receiving some of the chemicals that we do usually sell a lot of, like 2,4-D. May be in limited supply because of freezing pipes and repairs that are going to have to be made at some of these facilities. Noxious weed also does the mowing and the clearing of the right-of-way and tree removal, and so they've done an excellent job responding to storms and continuing to do that. I know we get a lot of calls about the mowing of the right-of-way. In the future, we will continue to produce maps of the locations, some of these locations. We've tried to address that with the implementation of the cross-access easement policy, but some locations do look like driveways, even though it is an extension of a county road. We do try to mow one path back more often than we obviously mow all the way back to the right-of-way line, but with current staffing and being able to fill those positions, we do consistently try to mow as much as possible. So if there are any questions about noxious weed before we move on? Okay. We do have an extensive list and spreadsheets that we've attached about the engineering projects. We currently have 11 active projects. Over the course of the past year that I've been here, we've closed out 8 of those projects. Most significantly currently is the Eisenhower Road project that's ongoing. If the board would like, we can address each individual project, but we do have some projects coming up for 2021. We'll have the continuation of the Eisenhower Road project. We'll have the 2 bridge replacement projects that were recently approved by the board, the SH22 and the SH30. And then we are in the process of loading the bid documents for K45 in conjunction with the 50/50 cost share grant that we received from the Watershed Institute for the replacement of the bridge structure in the Kickapoo Township. And so we'll have the 3 bridge replacement projects and the Eisenhower Road project in 2021. Depending on the update in the coming week or 2 weeks, we will have some updating engineering services for the 158th Street project that will come before the board for approval. Approximately 20% of that site has to have some field topography taken because of changes that have been made since 2004, and we need to have those plans updated for the cost share program. That program is a paid-out fiscal year program. Currently, it is allocated for October of 2021 to October of 2022. We are projecting that project not to start until probably approximately March 1st of 2022, but we do have the ability to start it earlier if the project is ready, 100%. Although if we started it this year, we'd shut down in the winter and it'd have that road torn up for a much longer period of time for the same cost. So we are, unless the state steps in and demands an early start date because of funding purposes, we do not intend to start that project until 2022. We have attached a capital improvement plan. That is not the approved capital improvement plan. The approved capital improvement plan was from May of last year. We were going to revisit that plan on a yearly basis. We do, as we received updated project estimates and as we receive monthly updates from the clerk's office, we do balance our financial records within the Public Works Department and update that spreadsheet on a month-to-month basis. So that is the most current capital improvement plan that we do have for the department. It is a working document. We will be back to revisit the capital improvement plan probably this May if we're going to do it on a yearly basis. Do we want to discuss any of these projects more fully at this time?
Anybody? I don't think.
Questions?
That's y'all do. Okay. No,
Okay.
Go ahead, Bill.
Other projects that we have outstanding is the Eastern Gateway feasibility study. Currently, the investment firm Arab is waiting on Transit Systems to produce the additional traffic study that the board approved. They are doing traffic projections over a 50-year time frame. Transit Systems is waiting on the Mid-America Regional Council to produce some of that traffic modeling information. The projected time frame, as we sit here today, for the completion of the traffic data is approximately 5 weeks. Arab said it would take an additional 2 weeks to produce their investment information after the final report is made public by Transit Systems. We have an HRRR project for the High Risk Rural Roads program that was awarded in 2020. It is for signs. It is $129,000. We've had the virtual field check with KDOT on that, and so that project is completely on the shelf and ready to go. It will be an end of the year project more than likely. They have kind of taken an emphasis off of these sign projects, but we are guaranteed that money, and that is 100% funding, and it is for County Route 13 and the Santa Fe Trail. So we will move forward with those projects. The local road safety plan through the High Risk Rural Roads project is ongoing. They did produce data sheets for us on the 10 locations that they were going to provide data in Leavenworth County. Before this Friday, we are going to submit an application for High Risk Rural Roads funding based upon those data sheets. We went back and forth with Transit Systems and asked them to adjust the data sheets for our 2 most accident-prone or most correctable areas that would score the best. And they are north and south of Stranger Creek's bridge crossing on Tonganoxie Road. And it includes shoulder widening as well as some other improvements at that location. And so we intend to apply for that funding here this week. We are working with a consultant to provide us some engineering estimates of the cost of that. Probably will be in the $700,000 range for those improvements. Those funds are 90-10 funds, so the county would be responsible if awarded that $700,000. We would be responsible for 10% matching funds. In the email that came out from KDOT this last week regarding the COVID relief funds that were earmarked for transportation, Leavenworth County was considered a hard hit, is the way they classified it, community, based upon an unemployment rate increase of at least 50%. Because of this, we are receiving extra points towards any applications through the local projects at KDOT for the next year. And so we will, we have historically since I've been here, and we will continue to apply for these local projects. Hopefully, that in conjunction with a comprehensive application, maybe we can be successful with those projects. But we are receiving an extra point on the local project applications through KDOT local projects. So this high-risk rural roads will be the first under that new scoring criteria that Leavenworth County qualified for.
And we did get some direct funding through that, correct?
Yes, we got $140,622 of direct funding that we have not yet received from the state, but in their spreadsheet that they did include in that notice, that is the amount that Leavenworth County was allocated as basically a stipend to try to offset some of the motor vehicle fuel tax decreases that we're seeing over the past year. Yeah. So the next item is the Regional Transportation Capital Improvement Plan study in conjunction or on behalf of the direction that was provided by the Board of County Commissioners to work with the Port Authority. County staff has worked with some of the study consultants that are available to us through Olsen. We have done a lot of work in order to get a RFP document prepared for that study, and we are nearing the finalization of that RFP to be sent out to the Port Authority and all the County Commission and all of the cities for their consideration in the matter. The document was reviewed by the Mid-America Regional Council and by KDOT, as this project, the way it sits currently, is going to receive funding from KDOT, an unknown amount that they haven't really specified, and it has been notified by Mark that they would provide also some professional services for it. The project cost for that is substantial at $400,000 to $600,000 for that study, and so I'm sure that coming back before the board in the future is going to be a request from the Port Authority for the county to participate as a cost share with the cities and KDOT and the Mid-America Regional Council for a portion of that study. Is there any questions about that before we move on?
Isn't that our money anyway?
It's looking like about the request, at least from the meeting we were at, was looking like they're going to ask for about $150,000 or that range.
That was the initial dollar figure that was produced by the Port Authority Chairman, Mr. Cos, with some funding mechanism of allocation amounts that he was going to then reach out to different entities and make a request for. That was $150,000 from KDOT, $150,000 from the county, and then $90,000 from the city of Leavenworth, and then I can't remember specifically.
40, 30, 20, something like that.
I'd sure like KDOT to put a little bit more.
And they have been non-committal. I know the Secretary of Transportation, in our discussions regarding the regional study, they are extremely supportive of it. It being a capital improvement plan type study with justifications within it and public comment. that they would base future investments upon such a study. And so there has not been a specified amount from discussions with the folks with KDOT that are specific to studies. They were very non-committal on a firm dollar amount either. So that they indicated that range of funding.
But she is supportive of getting that document put together.
The Secretary?
plan, yes.
Yes, the Secretary is very supportive of it. They understand that Leavenworth County is a growing region.
Exactly.
That is going to need KDOT investment in the 24, K7, K5 corridors, and just in general in this growing area of the northwest quadrant of the Kansas City metro area. They are coming to the conclusion of some very significant investments in the Wichita area. They are intending on our study being modeled after the study that was done between the city of Derby, the city of Wichita, and Sedgwick County, in order to conclude some of those Kellogg Road expansion projects. There are also some other groups out in southwest Kansas that are multi-jurisdictional and multi-county between, I think, Liberal and Dodge City and maybe Ulysses and some other communities who have been successful in developing a regional study such as this that then were presented to the IKE selection committee boards and then were put into the queue and are being completed in the next couple of years. And so our next opportunity, if we are going to present a collaborative front with the county and the cities to propose projects, would be October of 2021 in order to get some local projects that are from KDOT put into the IKE system.
Back to the study, where would we pull that money from if we were to give that money? Or where we were, what line item would that come from, Mr. Lawfrey?
I can answer it.
Well, it's either a sales tax project or it's a road and bridge project. So you're pulling it away.
It would be justified under the sales tax?
Well, I think if you look at it as ultimately it's a road and bridge because it's a master plan basically for transportation. I do think you could probably include it under the sales tax, and if not, you could probably include it as like economic development programming. But really, whichever area you earmark it from, just understand that would be money coming from some other project that we were going to do.
Okay.
Well, I think in order to move forward future-wise, we have got to get a plan of it. I mean, we have to move forward with something like this, or we're just spinning our wheels and wasting a lot of time and money. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I completely agree.
I agree with you, Vicki. Absolutely.
To that point, I believe there was something in the range of 25 different infrastructure studies that have been completed by KDOT for the impacted areas within Leavenworth County that had not been constructed. And so this study is not a comprehensive look at what projects are out there that need to be studied. It is a comprehensive look at these are the projects that have been studied in the last 20 years. We need to prioritize those projects, put $20 construction estimates towards those projects, and have a basis of prioritization of the document.
Now.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, and we need to make sure that when we move forward with this, that we're having a say in what the I don't know if it's called a criteria or what they're looking at, because we want to make sure that they realize that some of the projects are.
But I think that would be part of the process. That would be part of the process of developing a comprehensive plan. Is doing exactly that, making those determinations. That's part of it.
And I think that's definitely something the Board of County Commissioners
has to do on it.
Well, yeah, this is how you get to a point where you got an interstate interchange, and 10 years later still haven't done anything with it.
Exactly.
So this is exactly what should have been
I was
done.
just
It
trying
should
to
have
figure
already
out
been, I
how to
said,
fund
it's past due. This should have already been done. It wasn't done, but now we need to get it done. And we need to figure out a way of getting it done sooner than later.
No, I totally support it. I just want to make sure how we're going to put in our share.
Yeah.
Kind of after we already did put in our share.
Another concurrent acts. We have two concurrent studies. We have a study for the Eastern Gateway that's ongoing, and this study, a regional transportation study, is probably an 18-month process because it requires, in order to go through the procedures that KDOT wants to see done and completed in order to validate such a study, it's going to take a considerable amount of time and effort and public input. I think over the course of the next 5 to 8 weeks, as we receive information back regarding the Eastern Gateway, that information could make a significant difference in what a regional study looks like based upon
I agree.
private sector investment or lack thereof. So I think that's an important aspect of this is we're at a kind of at a crossroads where we'll have a lot more information both for the regional study and for that project over the course of the next several weeks, where this is something that is going to take quite a bit of time in order to follow KDOT recommended procedures.
Well, that's an important point because I don't think we should let the transportation study or the need for transportation study, which probably previous county commission should have done many years ago, delay the Eastern Gateway or be used as an excuse to delay it.
We couldn't even get projects designed to put on the shelf and apply for, what was that, the Tiger, what was the funds we...
Tiger and Tiger 2.
Well, that was then and this is now. And we need
Yeah, that's
to
what I'm saying. So we got it. This is our chance. I mean,
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. Public Works staff has been working hard to get through all of the surrounding jurisdictions, any jurisdiction that we have common borders with, to get a active and current city-county maintenance agreements in place. Currently, we have completed the maintenance agreements with Lansing, Linwood, Jefferson County. Atchison County has a current one. They were the only jurisdiction that it hadn't expired within. And so we are still working with Leavenworth City, Basser, Tonganoxie, Easton, Wyandotte County, and the local township in Douglas County. These documents are all prepared, have been sent out for these other neighboring jurisdictions' reviews or the cities within the county's review, and we are hopeful over the next several months to continue to have these things come before you for approval. They are not, we are establishing current maintenance practices. These are not negotiations of changes in maintenance. If an entity is interested in changing the current maintenance or current responsibilities, I would like to see these put in place first to establish in writing exactly what our existing responsibilities are. I know that has come up with some of the discussions that we've had regarding this. But I am hopeful that we will continue to get. We've had discussions with all of these entities, and we are hopeful to have this completed over the next several months. If anybody has any questions, we'll move on. The PubWorks software reconfiguration was a significant project that the Public Works staff worked on. They did a great job working on that. We collaborated with the GIS Department after they were put underneath Public Works. We had to break the road center lines down. Previously, we had tracked maintenance by roadway and township. Townships are large, and so we lack specific data on intersection to intersection maintenance that had been completed. And so by breaking down all of the centerline files by roadway intersection and by township, and properly naming each section of roadway, we integrated that new centerline into an updated version of the Pub Works program that has mapping and has a mapping-based data entry system. And now we are entering all 2021 data will be entered in that manner. And so moving forward, if you have a constituent or you have a request to provide some maintenance information, we should be able to produce those maintenance logs on an intersection by intersection basis instead of on a township and road basis. And so we will be able to specifically address those questions of whether or not we've been to a location over the past several months, not just on a roadway within the township. So I think it is it produces a much higher degree of accuracy on our maintenance records, and is something that we can work off of in the future as we need to track costs of different surface types and different types of roadways. So we're excited to have that in place, and it was and I'd like to thank all the staff that worked on that. That was a pretty big effort. The upgrade to we have not moved to it at all at this point, but this upgraded Pub Works system does allow for tablets to be used and employees to input data directly into those tablets instead of filling out their sheets at the end of the day or as their day progresses. And then when it connects to Wi-Fi back at the shop, it would automatically input that data into the system. But that's a significant expenditure in order to have that ability to buy all the different iPads or the different software. So at this point, we have not integrated that into it. We're troubleshooting the system and trying to input the data in a manner that's accurate and timely. So we'll move on to the GIS department unless anybody has any questions about any of that. The GIS department was transferred from a portion of the planning and zoning department to the public works department. Thomas Ann was hired for the position of GIS supervisor, and Tim Urban was moved from the public works office area to the GIS office area in order to facilitate having all of the mapping staff and personnel within the same area working together and being able to collaborate on projects. We created and hosted a new GIS web map that includes all of the GIS public layers, and this allows anyone with an internet connection to use them. It is a very phone-friendly way to look at the GIS map. Is what advantage that has. It is hosted by. It is not hosted by Integrity. We still have our Integrity map. This map is hosted by ArcGIS Online. We did create and host that ArcGIS Hub site that allows us to do these maps and input the GIS data for any department. And I encourage any of the departments, we have sent out emails, but as a department needs to see a layer or that is not available or needs layers created, or if you guys have a request for information that you don't see available through the GIS's different mapping, the featured online maps or the interactive map, feel free to reach out to us, and I'm sure that we can produce a map that you need. All the maps had been updated to 2021. There was some quite a bit of data entry that needed to take place to get all the 2019-2020 data up to date and ready for 2021. We uploaded 150 maps in PDF format, and so they are readily available for download for all different types of land use, road centerline, road classification, road types, and so we do have 150 maps in PDF format available as shape files for download. Map books were created for the cities. The 2020 aerial imagery was purchased and uploaded into the site locally. We did not outsource that work to be completed, and it was tiled correctly and was made available to the public. We had some boundary and annexation updates with the census, and we also had some NG 911 boundary overlaps, I would say, for lack of a better term, with neighboring jurisdictions that were addressed through the Mid-America Regional Council. So that was a pretty large collaborative effort that took a lot of people having the same understanding of the NG 911 system. And we added the NG 911 address points, and we were successful in getting through the portal with the City of Leavenworth and getting all the information updated. And then we did update our land and parcel information through the State of Kansas and the Mid-America Regional Council, and we continue to fill requests from external organizations.
Did the cities get their new aerial photos, Bill?
Yes, and
each city. Okay.
We bought the Mr. Sid mosaics, which I know you probably are familiar with. We did purchase those this year, which allows us to provide the tiling of the mapping on lower speed processors and handheld devices, and so that was important for the implementation of the PubWorks program. We needed that if we were ever going to have some of that data entry on a tablet device, and so we provided all that to cities.
Okay. Just so you guys are familiar, the county acquires new aerial photography and then provides a copy of that to the cities. That saves the cities hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. And on this new website, Build, you know how you have to buy credits to publish data layers out there. Is the goal eventually to replace the Intergraph site or the Midland site with a county-hosted site, or is it going to be cost-effective to do that?
I don't know if we'll fully move away from the integrity site. Currently, county staff has the ability to do coding, and so if you lose that ability to do coding or things change over time and different coding was required for it, your ability to get those ARC online maps up and available to the public would cease to exist. Where we have that contracted is $7,500 a year. I believe we pay Midland to host that, and we have their access to their experts. I think I don't have to see an intention of moving away from that quickly. We did receive a lot of credits that allowed us to host all that. I think thus far we've only had to spend about $100 on additional credits for the ARC Online credit subscriptions to get all the data that we have up there currently. Really, the significant credit use comes with the loading of aerials at high resolution. It cost about $100. That's what we paid the $100 in credits for, was to be able to get our full high resolution aerials up there. We had loaded them at a lower resolution. But no, I don't see that as an immediate need to go away from the integrity site.
Okay, I didn't know if things had changed. I know constantly things are evolving. So at the time, it wasn't wouldn't be cost effective. And then plus, I didn't like the idea if it went down at 3:00 in the morning. Who'd be getting the phone calls to get it back up? So
yeah,
that was a big deal.
Yeah, if something gets broken, we can call integrity and they can fix it. If something gets broken on the featured online maps, it is broken. A lot of those are just back. Some of those we have the ability to host the same layer on both, so you don't have to look in two locations for the same map. We do have additional layers on the featured online maps that we are not hosting on our generalized appraisal map, the interactive map, and so there is good data out there. We're breaking it down by department, so each department can have some specific maps and specific layers if you know exactly what you're looking for. But a lot of that information on the featured online maps is going to be kind of profession specific, where a survey company, engineering company might look at specific areas of that. Maybe the GLO surveys that we uploaded and made to where you can look at the transparency of the original 1850 surveys. The building footprints layer or the ag use layer, the appraiser's office might really look at. Planning and zoning might use some of that information as they go through their audit by the Division of Water Resources. And so there are a lot of things out there that are on the feature online maps that we don't necessarily need to host on the integrity map. I think it'll be interesting as we move forward to see how the credits work. Obviously, we don't want to have a huge financial investment in just putting out data that's not being used on a consistent basis, but we received a bunch of those credits when we purchased the software upgrades that were necessary in order to have concurrent licensing with all the employees.
Free. It's free.
It's free. It was all free. So far we have $100 and all that. It's really.
That's how they get you.
Yeah. That's why you don't want to necessarily move away from integrity at this point, because if you're paying them $7,500 a year and you moved away from them, it's harder to move back. And if they decide to charge you $100,000 for something at ArcGIS, because things get very expensive.
Yeah, and I didn't know if you're just, maybe that was a backup plan too, because I think Midland got sold, I think I heard too.
Yeah, they call it SAM now, SAM LLC, Survey and Mapping LLC. So Midland got sold, but I think it's the third or fourth name change I'm familiar with in the past 4 or 5 years. So I don't know if larger companies keep buying it or why or how that's occurring. Not included in the quarterly report, but a significant amount of time spent and staffing is within the Public Works on County Surveyor's Office. In the future, we will include number of surveys reviewed and some of the areas that those surveys were reviewed. In the past several months, we had probably just since the end of the year, we've reviewed approximately 50 surveys, and so the number of surveys with the increase in land prices that you guys were just speaking of, and the number of homes sold has increased fairly drastically over the past several months. So we've had about 50 surveys come in between the cities and the unincorporated areas of the county, all of which is reviewed by the Public Works staff and the County Surveyor's Office, both in the ones in the cities and in the county. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Bill. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to express appreciation for all the work you did on that 158th and K32. They are putting the beacons in, and they lowered the speed limit. They changed some signage, and we're hoping they'll do some with the hill.
No stoplight though.
Unfortunately, according to their traffic study, that it does not. I don't know. Maybe at some point
They'll never see that.
Any other questions for Bill?
No.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, staff.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving along. Any additional public comment? Anybody?
Friday, the governor's conference call. Anybody you'll take care of that? Okay.
Jeff, you gonna?
Just the Lansing City Council meeting that we attended Thursday night. Gave them a presentation about the Eastern Gateway. I think that went pretty well.
It was well received.
Yeah, it was well received. Just make sure that we let Leavenworth know that we weren't trying to diss them.
Yeah, I don't know how that quite came out, but we intended on it just to be, for the.
I think it went well, and I've received comments back from them. They're all very positive. I think Mike or somebody said a while back that we need to make these other call places too, and I'll gladly go with wherever you want. I think the other cities need to see that presentation. So they see what at least where we're at and what we've come up with right now. So anytime, Jeff, I know you're leading the charge in this. You can go anytime you want me to go, or anybody else. Just let us know. But I think it's important that we reach out to these other communities and let them know that where we're at. And it's early stages, folks. And we're not saying one city's better than the other. It's an opportunity that I think was an excellent idea brought up by Jeff. And I just think, but we got to make sure that everybody understands what's going on with it. So whenever you want to set that up, Jeff, me or whoever, depending on what part of the county, I'd be glad to attend. But it was well received on the city of Lansing's part. And I appreciate Bill going along too.
I did have one thing to bring up. There's a solar panel farm SUP coming up next week, and I did download the regulations from Sedgwick County that they implemented ahead of adopting that, and I'm going to be giving it to our county councilor and kind of reviewing it covers reclamation, and it covers a number of different items that perhaps we should address prior to adopting an SUP.
Understand? Okay. Any other?
Just got Mid-America Regional Council meeting yesterday. Bayshore City Council tonight. I got Fairmount Township Board tomorrow night. And last Saturday, Commissioner Stevens and I attended the Lincoln Day dinner at Deer Ridge. That's coming up again for an expansion on that for an SUP. The road, the owner had paid to have the road hard surfaced up to the event center. A very nice event center. I'm sure we collect a lot of taxes off of that one.
Good to hear.
It was a good event.
Anybody else? Becky, you got anything? Okay, with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. Mr. Collins?
Aye.
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 Aye.